To remount a press unit, and you can see right here, this hole denotes how big the spangle cut is. This is actually a 3mm punch. What happens is there's a mechanism called the hammer that pushes the punch, and it cuts the spangle and places it on my transfer sheet just like this. Now periodically what you do want to do is you want to make sure that there's no cut spangles hanging around on the punch, okay? Just kind of clean it off, a rag, a little bit of alcohol. The other thing you want to do is also the rollers here. The rubber rollers pick up a little bit of dirt over time. It's kind of like a mouse roller, okay? Just take a little paper towel, dip it in a little bit of alcohol, and then you can just clean that roller off. Now, to mount the punch, what we want to do, we're going to need, again, our T-handled Allen wrench, and we're going to need our press unit jig. This will be in your toolbox. And what the press unit jig does, it actually lines up my press units equidistant apart from each other. It also has a gap for how far off the table it's going to be. So the first thing I want to do is before I even mount this, I want to put my Spangle tape on there. So I take my Spangle tape, and I put my bobbin shaft in the right hand side, spring on the left, and now I hold the press unit in my hand just like this, and what I'll do is I will make sure it goes around the sway bar just like this. Now I may have to unwind a little bit more here. There we go. Get it around the sway bar. See, I'm pinching the spring closed, and I got the bobbin shaft still being held by my other finger. I'll set it in its carrier just like this. Now what I'll do, remove the tape. I'll push the spangle right behind the first roller. Now you're going to have two plastic guides that are on your machine, and the guides are labeled small and large, and you have spare in your toolbox. Now the front has a plastic guide, and it's a small guide. You can see the cutout here is actually small, and the guide's job is to make sure the spangle tape does not vacillate, move side to side in the punch area. If it did, we'd have punches going on the sides here. So it's constantly making sure that my spangle tape stays centered. So what I'll do, the spangle tape goes behind the guide. Just work it behind the guide. Let me just fold a little bit up, a little bit. There we go. And now it's going to go through the punch right here, this little narrow slot. So you go through the punch to the other side. Okay. From there, I'm going to turn the tape, the press unit to the opposite side like this. Now this little recess right here, I'm going to rest my first three fingers against it. And that allows me to hold the press unit in one hand, balancing it, making sure that my spangle tape doesn't fall out of the carrier. And I can also make sure that my thumb can open up the tension rollers, because I have to get the spangle tape to come out through here. Now here's a good look at the back plastic guide, and you can see it's a larger one. See, in the front one we had a small guide, and the back one we have a large one. The other thing I want you to note is all the guides in the front, the notch is facing towards the ceiling, and on the back the notches is facing towards the floor. So we come through here, so we're going to come in front of the guide this time. Okay, that's just going to make sure that it feeds on the waist reel centered. Okay, so what I'll do is, again, with the press unit resting on my three fingers in the recess right here, I could balance it with one hand, depress the tension roller so I could open it up. With the spangle tape right behind the roller, push down a little bit on the tension guide, and you see the spangle will come straight up. And then what I'll do is go and come down in between the rollers just like this. And I pull straight out. Okay, so now we have fed the spangle behind the back sway bar, over the top roller, behind the first roller, behind the guide, then through our punch unit. You want to make sure you go through there. If you're going outside of it, you're never going to cut any spangles. Reverse it, Make sure my plastic guide is straight. You're going to come out of the punch unit through the front of the guide with the press unit anchored in your hands like this. Slightly depress the roller and then push the spangle up through the back side of it. So I'll do it again. So here we go. So I'm going to depress it a little bit, go up through it. You'll see the spangle come up right behind the rollers. Grab it and then come back down through the back side of the rollers. That's where it needs to be, come out of, just like that. And just center up your spangle tape. Okay. So now what I'll do to mount it on the machine, I'll take the spangle tape, feed it towards the back. There we go. And then we'll mount the press unit right to the machine. Just like that. And what I'll do is I'll start to set my screws. I won't tighten them down all the way. You just want to set it so the spangle, so the press unit stays up on the machine. Then you want to take your press unit guide and you want to make sure that the first two press units are anchored, okay? So if you look down here, you see the notches right here are going to go on each side of the punch unit here. So I'm just going to slide this in just like this. And I'm just going to make sure that it's straight. I don't want this angled this way or that way, okay? Just make sure it's straight. When it's straight, I go ahead and tighten up these Allen screws all the way. That one. And that one. And now we can pull this press unit jig out. Now we'll go to the back and tape our spangle to the waste reel. Now to pull some out, just again depress the tension roller, let some come out, make sure it stays straight, and then I will tape it to my waste reel. Just like this, like this. And that's how you change out a press unit.